what I find really interesting, when I started this project about 10 years ago, I would talk to people on the North Norfolk coast of Wales and ask about the old fishing smacks and the boats. And almost that knowledge, I would say, had almost disappeared. So it wasn't there, it wasn't readily available. It took me years to work out that there was such a thing as a Norfolk fishing smack. There were none visible, they'd all rotted into the marsh. So within this one last generation, we've almost lost all of that knowledge, but it's just there with a bit of research, going back a couple of generations, going to the museums. So there's a real opportunity now to grasp that. And even if we preserve it, even if we just keep it there for the next generation, next 10, 20 years, you might find in the future it becomes even more relevant, even though I think it is at the moment. So in East Anglia, because we're surrounded by water, which is then of course very close to Europe across the North Sea, there was vessels coming backwards and forwards along the coast across the North Sea as a network all the time. And then this would have been the medieval period, so from about the 11th century to the 13th century. Of course, then as boats developed and became more seaworthy and faster, the networks became stronger. And then eventually we had the Hanseatic League, which was really based in King's Lynn. And still some of the warehouses still exist, so going back to the 13th century. So those were the centre, and that's where all the traders from Europe would come to, where a lot of the wool and produce from East Anglia was exported from. So exactly, it was a forerunner of the EU. So the Hanseatic League was primarily a trade organisation, so with a lot of the European countries that surround the North Sea, so going up to as far as Norway as well. But it wasn't just trade, it was security as well. So there's this agreement that they would look after each other, so if the Germans or the Dutch were coming across to King's Lynn, there'd be a guarantee that they would be safe, their ship would be safe, and their produce and trade and cargo would be safe as well.
These wherries are all past their time in terms of when they were built. They're probably expected to last, I don't know, 25, 50 years, but certainly all our fleet bar one are over 100 years old now. I think as the years have gone by and things have advanced terrifically, we've realised that perhaps there's some things we can learn from the past, and certainly we are trying to pass on the skill of sailing a wherry, which is a skill. We've been skippered today by Dawn, who learnt actually to sail on a wherry under my limited guidance many years ago, and she's been doing it now for 20 or 30 years and still keeps coming out. The River Yare and the Waverley, the wherries tended to be larger, and they would be carrying cargo, particularly from Yarmouth to Yarmouth to Norwich, where the coasters would unload at Yarmouth and then they would ship their goods into a wherry which would take up to Norwich. I think the unique thing about these boats is they were never designed, they evolved. They probably evolved from Viking ships in terms of hull shape and so on like that. But they evolved to the environment they're in. So sometimes people ask us the questions, do these ever go to sea? The answer very definitely is no. I do remember some hirers in the early days when they were sort of saying, well, where are we going to get to? How far are we going to go? And I said, just relax, just wait and see. And at the end they've said, I've never realised how just slowing down the difference that makes. And I think if we achieve anything at all, we might just actually manage to slow people down a little bit and get them to appreciate quality of life a bit more.
We're a sail training organisation. Well, we have two big aims. One of them is to preserve Excelsior, our historic fishing vessel from the 1920s, and one is to take young people out to sea for life-changing experiences. It's larger boats that are doing sail training, mostly with young people. The age range is 15 to 25, so nearly everyone at this event is going to be around your age or a teeny bit older. And the point of it is to have lots and lots of fun with young people from loads of different countries. So it's a big international friendship festival. I want you guys to really get involved and enjoy that and muck in and that. So as we have 24 hours from 10 a.m. from now to be at anchor. We'll go across there. We're going to probably learn on the hoof. I'm not going to spend lots of time doing sailing briefings before we leave, but we are going to learn to put up all the sails and probably practice some important manoeuvre type things like reefing in all of the boats. So there'll be a whole bunch of other boats anchored there as well. And it was because it was not too rough, the sea. It was a good opportunity for them to get to grips with how the boat worked and to really start to make it their home. We had them for 10 days, so they really sort of became one of the crew. They really owned. They took a lot of ownership over the whole voyage.
Resonated with me is definitely helming the ship. I felt like I had some power over this giant thing, and it was really interesting to do.
Get any messages anymore, and I often get groups that they sit there for the first few hours or whatever, looking really anxious at their phone and trying to check and trying to call their mums and stuff, and then they just sort of let go and they start engaging themselves more in their environment. And they start to appreciate, oh, tonight we can see the stars, isn't that incredible? Look at this amazing sunset that we're all on deck and experiencing together.
We were sailing across the North Sea, and obviously there's no lights in there except from the boat, and the boat's light, it caught on the water and it made it look like bioluminescent algae, and I just couldn't like look away from it. And then when we came into the dock, it was just sitting there like, and there's a green sea, and there's just these fluorescent lights, like red and purples, playing over the water. And I just couldn't stop thinking, like, I could really get used to this. Like, this is peaceful. This is like life.
To learn how to sail a traditional boat, I think, was a very big project for John Wilson, our founder. He did a lot of historical research into how the smacks had originally been sailed. And I think he interviewed and he spoke to a lot of old smacksmen, the ones that were still around or ones who remembered, because he had started this project in the 70s. Part of it is feeling, they're representing their area. Not only are they representing the UK and England, but they're also representing Norfolk and Suffolk. And a lot of people haven't even heard of those places if you're in another country. So to actually go abroad and to have a bit of pride for where you're from. Sponsored to provide the young people with traditional fishing smocks, and so they were really happy wearing them as well. They looked good. They wore them in the crew parade. They won the crew parade wearing their traditional Lowestoft fishing smocks. So yeah, it was having a bit of local pride abroad, but it's also meeting people from other places. That experience of going somewhere beyond your own borders and seeing the world outside that.
Whereas what we'd like to do is take a new restored fishing smack, which is a 42-foot wooden sailing boat, and sail it from Wells around the coast of Norfolk, either to King's Lynn, across the Wash, or round to Yarmouth and to Norwich, or further, and then deliver some cargo at the same time, all without an engine and all with under sail, so it's sustainable. Well, we've delivered some beer from Wells to King's Lynn before. We've also delivered some goods to Norwich on a couple of occasions. But this is on a smaller boat, which is the 30-foot open boat with a lug sail. Our new boat is 42 foot, it's got a much powerful sailing rig, it's got a gaff cutter rig, and it's designed to sail in the North Sea, so we'll be able to go faster and we'll be able to take more cargo. Well, I think there's two things. First of all, I believe that society is changing. I believe that there's, as we all do, there's real pressures on the environment at the moment. So part of it's the environmental thing. We're not going to solve any problems by delivering this cargo onto sail. It's a drop in the ocean in terms of what has to be done. But we're perhaps changing the mindsets and attitudes within Norfolk and showing that there's other ways of doing things. We don't have to use just diesel trucks. There are alternative methods, in fact, we've been using for hundreds of years.
Special.